This video will refer to spoilers Nintendo themselves dropped for a character appearing in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. If you want to go into the film completely fresh, please turn away now. So, Nintendo has announced that, officially, Fox McCloud is in the Super Mario Galaxy film. Pikmin are also in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and it seems like the march of the Miyamoto stable of franchises is progressing very nicely. And I talk about Miyamoto specifically, since we know that he has always had a penchant for Fox McCloud and for Pikmin. However, I don't think this is just a whim choice. One assumes that the rights to these characters are carefully negotiated and their deployment very well considered, not just by Miyamoto, but by the company as a whole. Nintendo has made a definitive choice by putting Fox in this film, and in this video I want to explore exactly what it could mean. On the one hand, of course, there's no reason for any of this to make particular logical sense, but if you're doing a film that is, per the title, galaxy spanning, then Star Fox does seem like a crossover that makes some sense. As for putting the Pikmin into Super Mario Bros. Wonder, their endearing mascot quality means that they can pretty much rock up anywhere, and so giving them some Super Mario Bros. Wonder love does make some sense. It bolsters two franchises that Nintendo clearly aspire to do more with, but which haven't historically been top sellers for them, although Pikmin certainly did well in Japan when Pikmin 4 released in 2023. Note also, of course, that the Pikmin team is the same as the Super Mario Bros. Wonder team, as both are the products of EPD10, and so there might be a bit of internal affection for the Pikmin from the 2D Mario staff. However, I do wonder if there's a little more afoot here. For a long time on this channel, we've discussed the difficulties Nintendo has, that it has some franchises that are absolute megaton hits like Mario, Pokemon, and they have every chance of bootstrapping Zelda into the big time as well with a new film. But their second tier of franchises is a little bit more difficult. Kirby, of course, is absolutely huge in Japan, but has never caught on quite so well internationally, while Metroid's problems are well rehearsed. Donkey Kong benefits significantly from being in the broader Mario umbrella, and for this reason is better known. Yes, it's often considered its own discrete series, and it has its own characteristics, certainly, but most Donkey Kong appearances in recent times, at least, are party appearances in the various Mario titles. The question is, could this be a way to make Pikmin and Star Fox particularly fly that much higher, and even to create a momentum for their own franchises to become hugely successful? Look, with Pikmin, I do think this appearance is just a gimmick, that the Pikmin are absolutely everywhere and can cameo left, right and centre just to entertain people. They particularly fit in the anything goes aesthetic of Wonder, even if I wouldn't necessarily expect to see them in the next Zelda or Metroid. But if Star Fox is a tough sell as a character in his own right, putting him as part of the broader Mario franchise instantly makes him a very different proposition. And actually this makes a lot of sense. Wario kind of exists as his own thing, even though Wario is also part of the Mario universe, and Donkey Kong Country is also something that theoretically exists in the same world as Mario, even though it does feel quite different. Fox is hopping between different planets in space, and so there's no particular reason why one of them couldn't include a Mushroom Kingdom. It's completely plausible that there's some kind of weird corner of the Mario Galaxy where the Lilat system resides. Even if the extent of the crossover is one film, that association with Mario once made will be a huge boon to Star Fox's name recognition among the general public. But if they can build on this, perhaps having Fox star or appearing in other Mario media just like Donkey Kong has, then maybe there's a chance that his familiarity will only continue to grow, and therefore the hunger for a new Fox game might also increase. Of course, you could have said the same thing about Waluigi, and that doesn't seem to have worked out. I guess the question is, why do this now, and what are Nintendo planning to get out of it? Ultimately, Miyamoto clearly loves and wants to promote the character, so the Occam's razor take is just that he didn't find anything else to do with Fox and thought that the Galaxy movie would be an excellent venue in which he could feature. However, this really does bolster the chances that Nintendo will want to sell games off the back of Fox's cameo. After all, it would seem an odd choice to raise the profile of a character with a much-loved game series and then not at least try to sell something off the back of it, particularly given that there is no Star Fox currently on the Switch, unless of course you count Battle for Atlas or the Nintendo Switch Online titles. Regarding the specifics of which games, when and by whom, I have a deep dive video that I'll recommend at the end of this video, but that contains much more specifics on how Star Fox might come back in more granular detail. There is another possibility to consider as well, though, which is that Nintendo might actually have a vision of Illumination leading a Star Fox film in its own right in the future. I'm sure for this film the character's appearance will be relatively short, probably blink and you miss it, but the legal gears that had to turn to put Fox onto the screen at all make this probably a much bigger deal than just a fun cameo. Star Fox is the kind of animatable character who would potentially do very well on the big screen, and if Nintendo do want to expand their film repertoire, why not give Star Fox a tilt? The thing is, Star Fox must be classed, until now at least, as a separate property, legally speaking. I don't know exactly how the Illumination deal is negotiated, and of course Nintendo has approval over every character as they are deeply involved in the picture themselves. It's possible that each character is negotiated on an ad hoc basis, but since Nintendo has other partners such as Sony Pictures on Zelda, it seems likely that potential future use of certain characters is locked in when there is some kind of negotiation with the potential future partners such as Universal and Sony. It seems unlikely that Sony would want Universal scooping them by putting, for example, Link in a Mario movie. With the likes of DC and Marvel, when they license animations or films, there's often specific characters that can and can't be used, and sometimes the particular characters that appear on screen are dictated to a large degree by these restrictions. It's one thing bringing water over a character who is very much identified with Mario, but characters from other properties would be another matter. So putting Fox into the mix with Universal might not preclude Nintendo selling Fox in its own right going forward, but it certainly adds complications, because if they do toys and tie-ins, there will be the Universal model and the non-Universal model. And while that might be fine in 10 or 20 years, when the Super Mario Galaxy movie is largely forgotten, it could be a big limiting factor for any potential sales in the interim. Basically, I'd argue that Nintendo are betting that Illumination would be the best home for Star Fox in the foreseeable future if they ever want to make it a bigger deal than just a game that is relatively niche, and if they want to try to make it a much more popular franchise. Now, given the fit of the franchise to the film developers, they're probably right that Illumination would be a great fit. On the other hand, they might just have figured that Star Fox isn't a property they're going to be able to be in a position to monetize meaningfully anytime soon, and so Star Fox simply is setting down a marker by having a reference in this film. In this case, of course, if Illumination can really bring Fox into the big time, then it could be a win for everybody. They could end up launching a massively successful franchise, even if it's one that might not have seemed obvious ahead of time. I don't think when the first Marvel films were being made in the early 2000s, anybody would have even imagined a Guardians of the Galaxy film being especially popular, with even Iron Man at the time being considered rather niche. This also does make me wonder whether other properties could ultimately find themselves bundled into a smaller number of Omni IP. Maybe Mole Mania will also get a reference, or even ARMS or F-Zero. I'm not sure that there's that many IP that really suit this kind of cross-pollination approach, but it would be an interesting thing if Nintendo decided to try to use Mario as the way to push some of these smaller properties forward. Still, in terms of this channel's MO to try to look probabilistically at the future of Nintendo, I think this does move the dial when it comes to Star Fox. The films are ultimately massive advertisements for the games, and while they might not immediately want to bring back Wart, although I wouldn't bet against it frankly, they obviously aim to bring back Star Fox at some point, and so it's only a matter of time before they do. Perhaps it's the case that the decision to do a Galaxy film spawned consideration of Fox, and so no Star Fox game is in the offing. They can't, after all, necessarily sync their film releases with their game releases, but all the same, they are massive, massive long-term endeavours, these films, and given that they're spending effectively loads of money to promote it, they do want to make sure they've got something to promote. So I don't think it's completely impossible that they could have synced up their schedules either, especially with a Star Fox game potentially not needing such a massively long time to produce if they wanted to do something smaller and experimental. And of course, there's lots of low-hanging fruit, such as the GameCube Star Fox titles, which means that it would be possible to produce at least some kind of game in a shorter time window. So my personal judgment of percentage likelihood, and as regular channel viewers will know, I do check back every now and then to see how accurate I am, is the following. I would say there's a 70% chance we will see a Star Fox title announced this year, probably in the next Direct, alongside a big Mario title. I also think there's a 30% chance that we hear of a Star Fox film by the end of 2028. Of course, I have deep dived Star Fox recently in terms of potential developers and context, and many of these considerations still apply. Therefore, do check out the video on screen, which looks at how Star Fox could make his gaming return. Thanks for watching, huge thanks to the channel's Patreon backers, and I will see you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.